Hey there my dudes, I am Laddie and welcome to another video. So in this video I didn't want to bother with an intro or anything, I just wanted to get straight to the topic because as you've seen from the title and stuff, it's a more serious one and I wanted to get to explaining the story behind it. So when I was younger, I used to be transphobic. I used to be racist and homophobic and sexist and bigoted in quite a few of my views, and this was just when I was 13. I was fresh out of the private convent school, Studley Knoll, and I knew absolutely nothing about the world. And this was my first introduction into going into a community school from a private school. So I was fresh out of convent school, I didn't know anything. I remember walking into Kevik's, which is where I went, in Totnes in England, and I remember walking into Kevik's and thinking it was crazy. I saw people with dyed hair and piercings and all this kind of stuff, when in Studley Knoll you would have to cover up your piercings with tape. You weren't allowed to dye your hair or anything like that. So I remember seeing these people like they were new creatures, and the one thing that I was exposed to, other than just, you know, the diversity, and there were people that were emos and there were nerds and there were gocks, and it wasn't that defined. There were loads of different people. It wasn't just defined as emos and nerds and jocks and geeks or whatever. It was a mix of people. There were people who liked sport but also were nerdy and stuff like that, and that was really good. That's why I'm glad I left Studley not too late to experience diversity. But the other part of diversity that hit me hard was things that I couldn't quite comprehend, like, things like just sexuality. I didn't really know how to comprehend because it wasn't something they taught me at all in Studley about my sexuality. It wasn't something I knew existed. I just knew that it had to be one certain way. And I mean, even different cultures, different races, different whatever people's skin colour were. I hardly saw any of those people in Studley Knoll. There was, I think, like one person that I can remember in my year that was actually from a different, that had a different skin colour to the rest of us, and we really didn't know about anything like that. So as soon as I left, I was hit with all of this diversity that I didn't quite know how to handle. And I remember first, I think, came the thing where I was just saying such bigoted things. And first I had a group that supported that. I had a group of friends that would also be rather, I'm not going to mention any names about those people, but they were also rather supportive of my bigoted views, and that was from people in Studley to other people, and I'm sure the people in Studley have chosen my path now to be less bigoted. I don't know, but and then what happened is I was kind of running my mouth on the situation for quite a while. I would be like, oh, I really just don't get that. I think that's a bit weird, isn't it? With all the different sexualities, and, you know, being like bisexual's a bit, you know, it's a bit trying to get attention. All these people who are like gay out at Pride, well, they're just trying to get attention, and whether it be different cultures, with my family's views, we won't get into that right now, with my family's views and views I had from my past, from these people in this private school, even people from different cultures. I mean, the views I had against people who had, you know, of Muslim belief, the views I had against them, like all of them, which definitely something some of my family members have views against, but the views I had against them is that all of them were in this set thing. They were violent people, or they had terrible views, and obviously I know now that that is not true. Everyone is their own individual person, and I shouldn't ever stereotype a whole group. But back then, whether it be those people or whether it be people from like British African people, whether it be you know, people from Spain, whatever it was, I had a set stereotype views that I used to hold back then, and I did used to use it to mock people. I wouldn't say I was much of a bully myself, because I was still an introvert. It was usually what I said behind people's backs, which I find even worse. So I was, and I remember the first time I came across the whole transgender thing, I remember I never knew it could be for women to men. Because I was fresh out, I didn't know. So the only thing I heard was, first I mixed up drag with being transgender, and then I mixed up and then I just thought it was a bit weird, like I thought you could only be, I thought transgender was these sort of like trannies, and they were like men that were pretending to be women, and that's all I know. I didn't even know that women did the same thing. I just thought that they were like butch lesbians or something. This is exactly the thoughts that I had, and I thought they were just trying to be something they were not. I had very strong views, well, not really strong views, I didn't really know enough about it. I didn't understand, I didn't get it. And so I had all these bigoted views, and the words that I was saying, using, you know, F word, and using like tranny, and using all this kind of other words to do with also different cultures and races, like using the word for people who are from Pakistan, shortening that down. I'd use that quite a lot. If you guys don't know, I don't want to say it because, you know, I'm not really, but like words for people who are from Pakistan, you know, the first half of that word, using that, and people from, you know, using words for people who are Hispanic and things like that. And I just didn't really, I had no filter. I'd never thought about how my words could interact or could harm other people. And so that was the first year that I was around people, a group of people who were very supportive of that and would also use those words. And then I came across the group of people who really moulded me, who I am so grateful for, in Kevix, King Edward's Community College. And this group of people, we called the meme team. I don't know if any of them are watching this, because I know I have some of them on Facebook and I post this to Facebook, but those people, I met one of them. I think the first person I met was Hazel, and we were in Spanish class together, and there was Erin and Jenny and other people like that. And I remember we met in Spanish class, and I was like speaking to Hazel and stuff. And then when we were speaking, I remember a vivid memory is I was speaking to them in chat, and it began with just a few people, so I only know like Hazel and stuff like that, and then it went on to the whole group. But before I was in the group, I was speaking to Hazel on chat and Erin and stuff, and I remember using words like quite derogatory words to people, and being, I was just being very like, oh yeah, well, it doesn't really matter, that's my views, what does it matter if I'm harming anyone in the process? And I would use these words that I've spoken about, like, oh yeah, he's such a faggot or whatever. And even though I was using it not to be, you know, necessarily against the fact that this person was gay, but I was just using it to mock them, what they did is, as soon as I used those words, they told me, the group of people like Erin and Hazel, they told me straight away. They said, that's not okay for you to use those words. Can you imagine how it would feel if someone was, you know, like how it feel, because they said to me, have you ever been bullied? Like, if you've ever been bullied. And I was like, yeah, obviously I knew what it was to be different because of how I was. If you look at my last video in Studley, growing up in Studley Knoll, I knew I was different. But they said, have you ever been bullied? And I was like, well, yeah. And they goes, that's how it feels to those people when you're using something that they can't control against them. And at first I went, oh well, you know, it's just my opinions, these people don't really deserve it, that kind of stuff. It's not like I'm harming them necessarily, I'm just saying this stuff, maybe they should man up about it. And it was the same with the way I was against people who were depressed and who were being suicidal, self-harm. I used to say to them, oh, just deal with it. Why can't you ever just deal with it? Just be happy. Stop being depressed. Stop using... I used to say that people who were cutting and being depressed were using it for attention. And you really don't understand until, like... you've been around that scenario, been in the community of that kind of area. And I was so bigoted about it. People who were actually depressed and who had suicidal thoughts, I was saying to them, oh, just deal with it, just get over it. Or just, you know, and they were telling me, the group were telling me, that's not okay. And every time I said something, they didn't just give up on me, and they didn't just say, oh, well, you know, that person's just really bigoted. They would tell me exactly how wrong I was in my different ways, and that was the first few months I knew them. Every time I said something that was really bigoted, that was really disgusting, they would let me know that that is wrong. And I had never been told that way. I'd never been told what I was saying was wrong before. I'd never been told by, like, my private school or by my parents that what I was saying was wrong, because I guess they all had those views. And I just remember thinking, yeah, why am I saying this stuff? Why am I using these words that are meant to cause harm, even though I'm using, like, even if I'm like, hey, faggot, hey, even though I'm using words like that, or, oh, that's such a tranny, even though I'm using those words in a way, or just saying, calling someone a tranny even though they're not, you know, transgender, to use it as an insult, I'm still using that word as an insult, and saying being a tranny is an insult is saying being transgender is being bad. So they taught me, and after like a good 6 months of being within their group, being within the meme team, I started to feel more comfortable, and I was actually actively thinking about what my words were doing. I was actively thinking, is the fact that I am using these words harming someone who actually is gay? And I came across the idea of people who are different sexualities and different things like that. And finally, in my story of joining a community college first, finally I was so comfortable enough that my bigoted views, the bigoted views that I had against a certain group of people, I became that group of people. So I came out as bisexual. And I remember Hazel had to deal with, I feel so sorry for Hazel, but when I first came out of bisexual, I was the most bloody out there bisexual person you could know. And I feel sorry for Hazel for having to listen to me speak practically about vag the entire Spanish class. No wonder I only got a C in Spanish. The entire time, that's all I was speaking about. And I feel like I was speaking about women and stuff like that. I feel so sorry for Hazel, but she was there and she supported me, and she and obviously knowing me as what I was kind of bigoted in the beginning. She didn't care. She never brought it up like, oh, look what you used to be like. She just realised that, you know, that this is who I was now, and I just had bad views beforehand. And then, you know, the group that I used to be friends with, well, I was still friends with them at the time, I was hanging out with them, that group said the same bigoted stuff about myself. And for example, me coming out as bisexual, that group of people, or some people in that group, said that me coming out as bisexual and the fact that I spoke about it was me trying to be attention seeking. They thought that I came out as bisexual to be attention seeking. And they thought that being me just trying to be who I was actually trying to get more like attention and more just more reaction out of them, and it really wasn't. I was just trying to be who I was, and the reason they said they said I spoke about it too much, and I spoke about women and men equally because I was bisexual, the same amount that the straight women spoke about men and the straight men spoke about women. It's just the fact that they reacted to it more, and they realised me speaking about it more, even though I was speaking about other people the exact same way as I would before when I spoke about men. And so I realised what my views, even more when I had that acted onto me, I realised what my views could do to people and what my bigoted views I had when I was a kid could have done to people. So when I was about 15, I was really at the point where I was thinking about 15, 16, I was really thinking in that last year about what I said to people, because those people, the meme team was a very diverse group of people, different religions, different cultures, different backgrounds, different sexual orientations, and different gender identities. However, I didn't really know about different gender identities until college, which I'll tell you guys about in a different video. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to the meme team. If anyone is watching, they will know who they are. And I am just glad that I could, because I think I wouldn't have discovered who I was as early as I did if I hadn't been open to the world by those people. And I just want to say thank you, because the reason why I'm making this video and the reason why I'm telling people this is I see people so stuck in their ways, and the reason why I make these videos and I try and understand those people's views of people who are bigoted, who are transphobic, who feel hate against me, who feel hate against people in the LGBT community. The reason why I try to understand and I try to change your views is I used to be those people. I used to be you if you are watching and you have views that you believe not to be bigoted but actually are harming other people. If you at least speak to us, people in the LGBT community, and you have those views, you should realise that we are just more people. And yes, we're different possibly to you and the people you surround yourself with, but if you surround yourself with people who are more diverse, then your opinions should be diversely affected so that you will no longer persecute people around them for something they can't choose. So that is why I made this video, and I just want to say anyone can change their opinions, anyone can change their views, and I think that it's a fact of whose side is right, not knowing whose side is right. But if you make sure that the people you're around is a diverse group of people, you should be able to find many different opinions of the situation and come to your own. So I am obviously a very different person to who I was when I was 13. When I was 13, I was a drama seeker, attention seeker. I was I was mouthy and bigoted and stuff like this, and I was one of those people who's like, yes, well, if you're not my class, then you don't deserve my attention. And I'm just glad that I've made my way to who I am now, because I just feel like I'm finally someone within my own body. And believe me, if you met my original self, you would not believe I'd become the person I am now. So thank you guys for watching. I will I want to again extend another thank you to the people out there who helped me discover who I am, and thank you guys for watching and listening. I hope this changed some people's opinions, or if not, I hope it was just helpful to anyone. Thank you for watching. see you in the next video. Bye bye.